story arc that I took away from the game is our very small bench that we did have looked comfortable out there, made good plays, and earlier.
No, it's supposed to be a non-pose shot. Just do yours.
Zach and James came in, and we didn't miss a beat with those guys. They look comfortable. They look good out there. Combined 7 for 8 from the field. Combined 6 assists and 18 points. There's your bench. Congratulations. And that's big. We're going to be whole again at some point as a group, and it's not going to be too far away. So to have more guys that we can lean on in tough situations is going to be huge. I thought our ball movement was excellent offensively. We did a good job of playing downhill. Our shot selection was pretty good. And defensively, I'm delighted with holding them to 34.4% with the things they can do to you offensively. They spread you out, get into the paint, and then put those shooters outside. And I never felt comfortable all night defensively with the weapons they have. They'll continue to get better and better and better with all those freshmen out there, and they'll end up being a good NEC team by the end of the year. They've got weapons, and I thought they ran into us when we had a pretty good night.
Isn't this, we get 5 double-figure scorers, everyone getting involved? Isn't this kind of what you envisioned at the start of the season?
Yeah, this is how we want to play. And when you have, beyond that, playing downhill and making good decisions at the rim. So many of our assists came as a result of a jump stop, a ball fake, and patience. And that's basketball. It translates to whoever you play against. It doesn't matter if you're playing against an NEC team or a Big Ten team. You play with that poise, good things are going to happen. The other guy that played with a lot of poise was Doug Taylor. I mean, he's slowed so far down in a good way in terms of he looks like he has a plan out there for the first time in his career. And he really, against other mid-majors, is dominant at times on the glass as well. But I knew Doug was feeling okay when he took that first 3 from the corner.
The front court rotation around, you got any updates on the state of affairs in that regard? Kevin, Jason?
I'm hoping to have Kevin back next game. I don't know if that's going to be the case. He's got to prove that he can move on it without risking further injury. Jason, I don't know for sure when his next X-ray is, but that's going to be the big date for that. And Ben, as soon as his leg, a little bit like Kevin, is when he can cut and move on it, he'll be out there. And AJ's date is probably a little more definite, and that's mid to late December. So, yeah, pretty soon we're going to have so many guys that won't know what to do with them. But for right now, it's modify practice severely. And every win we can get during this stretch where we're so depleted is going to be invaluable at the end of the year.
Can you touch on what, maybe it's the pressure of knowing he's the only real big you got right now, but how Doug has kind of answered the call here in the short term anyway and improved dramatically at least the last couple outings?
Well, for one thing, yeah, I don't think he feels anybody breathing over.
I mean, the pressure, it's on you or nobody else. You got to get it done, though.
He doesn't think that way. Doug doesn't go about life that way. I think a lot of it is just part of his natural growth. And just like when Jason Carter got his opportunity last year, Doug learned he can do a lot of things that he never thought he could do. Look at his foul total tonight. I mean, he's playing against a bunch of guards out there, flying around, and he's not fouling. He's playing more minutes than some may have thought he could have played conditioning-wise. After you played 45 minutes, and in that 45th minute you're every bit as active as the first, maybe you realize you're in a little better shape than you think. Maybe you realize there are things you can't do. I said to him, I said, I can't run a marathon either, but if there's a bear chasing me, I'd give it a try. He's got that going right now. Okay, I got to do this. I don't have a choice. And he's stepping up.
James Nolan was having a terrific night, I thought, in his role off the bench. Is his knee okay? And
Yeah, it was a deep thigh deal. It was a Charlie horse. Yeah, he's got nothing structurally wrong there. Every time he gets hit, the first thing I look at is his hips. Are his hips okay? But he was ready to go back in the game. I decided not to.
But he's a guy that appears to be knocking more and more rust off.
Yeah. You look at it, he's getting comfortable. Zach Butler, getting comfortable. Making plays that they make in practice. James had an unbelievable preseason. He was one of our leading scorers in practice in the preseason. Then he got out here and was so tight that if I'd have goosed him, he'd have gone through the roof of the convo. That goes away as you get more and more experience. All of a sudden, maybe something that was made you real jumpy before. I remember before my first game that I ever coached, I was so excited to go out there and be there. I didn't know how it was going to be on the sideline. I didn't know if I'd stand, sit, have a crouch, just get all over the refs. And eventually you find your voice, and eventually you find your. And I'm not making skill decisions. When basketball is not a game where you do better when you're all jacked up. You usually do better when you're playing free. You want to be all jacked up on the defensive end, but you got to be able to ease her down on the offensive end, slow down. And again, to do that on a night where the other team liked to pressure, they like to run and jump. We had 5 turnovers against a pressure team tonight, and that's probably made them look worse defensively than they actually are.
So in a convoluted way, with Zach and James, being kind of thrown into the fire, isn't there some weird kind of positive that you have this short bench now?
Absolutely. At the end of we don't have a choice but to try to look at it that way. I mean, what are you going to do? It stinks we have a short bench. Woe is us. But maybe it forced me to have a little more confidence in them just because they're the next men up right now. Maybe that's it. I know this, when Tony went down last year, there was a 2-game gap where we were kind of driftless and didn't see. We'll have all these experiences under our belt when we're whole again, and I can't help but be positive for us. Every time, it's like training a dog. Every time something good happens, there's a little reinforcement, and it's nothing I say, something they feel it. I've got hyper-competitive kids. Zach's proud. He won a state championship. James is a perfectionist in everything that he does in life. And if they don't get the immediate reward, there's a tendency to say, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with this? What am I doing? You just saw him relax and play good basketball tonight. And that's, I mean, Zach is a really good athlete. And when we can unlock his potential, he's got a chance to be pretty good. James is a lot quicker than he looks. He's got a little more shake to him than he looks. And he's a really good scorer of the basketball. So if we're going to be a team that's whole, a team that I tried to put together in the recruiting process, those guys functioning on all cylinders make us closer to that. No, don't get me wrong. We can come out any one of these nights where we're really thin and we get in foul trouble. One of the biggest keys to the game was we were in 0 foul trouble all night. We fouled 9 times. Talk about growing with Doug. He was a foul waiting to happen until this year. Now it took him 45 minutes to foul out last game, and tonight he had 1 foul. That's strong. It won't be that way every night. It's going to be a little more rugged than Mac, but he knows he can play stretches without having to worry about fouling, which is a good thing.
Can you describe how uncommon it is to have a freshman point guard contribute the way Kirk is, and maybe more so with his ability to post up? Posting up for smaller guys is a lost art at a lot of levels of basketball.
You know,
This guy looks comfortable doing it.
And it was trickier than it looked tonight because that guy was going to try to flop on him all the time. So it takes a couple moves out of your array. You can't bull rush him down. But I love guards that can post. That comes from my Bo Ryan background. They've always had guards that can post. And the worst defensive player on the court in the post is going to be the opponent's point guard. It just stands to reason. And if you look at the bigs that we've brought in, a majority of them can shoot the ball pretty well. You invert the offense. You maybe you're different than other people. So teams that play us need to work with their point guards for any amount of time during the week on their post defense. And that can be very advantageous. And also, in our system where all 5 players can be on all 5 spots on the floor on any given possession, it gives us another weapon that way. TK loves being at the rim, and the way I try to sell our point guards on posting up, it's the same as if you drove in there, came to a jump stop, now you just have to make a decision whether that's a shot, whether it's the pass. But, I mean, 20 points, 6 assists is a good stat line for any point guard. He did it as a freshman here, and how many games in? He's been good the whole year. Tough kid. Listens really smart. Sometimes you don't get that from him because he's always talking and some wacky stuff comes up, but he's a sponge. He is a sponge. Loves the game, hyper competitive. Glad he's my point guard. And you know what? Zach was a pretty darn good point guard tonight too, and they played well together, which that's a development because we haven't had a chance to do that very often.
How much of the confidence from Zach and James do you think was partially helped by just the team as a whole clicking and everything going well?
Well, I'll take it back. I think some of it goes back to last game. When you come back from that, you kind of get a feeling of, okay, we can maybe accomplish more than we thought. We're better than maybe we thought, and we're never dead. That lets you play. Listen, we fall down by 16, 18. We'll say it. Done it before. We'll do it again. We fall down by 8 with 39 seconds, which I wouldn't suggest doing. We'll say, hey, okay. But when you can feel like you're legitimately never out of a game, then you really don't get caught up in the next possession. Just play the next possession. It'll work out fine.
Mike, you've talked about it all preseason long. You saw it all preseason long, but now he's done back-to-back games where he's kind of been the elder statesman as the scorer.
One of the best players on the court last 2 games, and so happy for that kid because he did it the hard way. He's a tough nut, and he wasn't given anything in this program. And in this day and age of kids not getting exactly what they needed and going somewhere else, he's a kid that stuck it out the whole way through, and he's seeing the fruits of his labor right now.